You're listening to the Real Returns podcast, where we learn how real investments can make a real impact. Join your hosts, Andrew and Dan, as they share stories and interview business leaders on how real estate and other forms of investment can create meaningful change for individuals and communities around the world.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Real Returns podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Riker, and I'm joined with my clever co-host, Dan Croce. Dan, how are we doing today?
I'm great. It's a beautiful sunny day here, Cinco de Mayo in Pittsburgh. We're recording this on Cinco de Mayo. And, I was trying to think of a bad Cinco de Mayo joke, but I wasn't able to because all my jokes are 5 out of 5. Get it? Cinco de Mayo, 5 out of 5.
Well, that definitely qualifies as a bad joke. So,
no, in all seriousness, how much Mexican food do you think I'm going to eat tonight?
I don't know. How much?
It's nacho business, Andrew. Nacho business. But don't sing. All right. No, it's
well,
nice.
If this episode is going to be bad, just to warn everybody, I'm already 6 tequilas in. So,
oh boy.
Between your bad jokes and my 6 tequilas,
it's going to be real bad.
Our guest is going to have a tough time.
Brad, in advance.
I could roll with it. I like it. I mean, I'm impressed you were able to work in 2 jokes just 2 minutes in here.
Well, two bad jokes equals one good joke, right?
Yeah, that's one way to look at it.
Sure. But hey, we're excited today to have Brad Shepard on the show. Brad is the founder and managing partner of Sugar House Investments. He's a licensed real estate securities broker who focuses on raising syndicated capital for commercial real estate projects. He's been in the space for over 20 years, and he's passionate about helping individual investors get access to the passive income that comes from commercial real estate without the hassles. So Brad, thanks so much for taking some time today to join us on the show. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to our audience?
Thanks, Dan. I appreciate the opportunity. Yeah, I've had my hands in the real estate scene for a good number of years. It's actually what I did my internship for when I was in college, in between my junior and senior year, as I was doing a finance major. I interned with a commercial real estate firm up in Seattle that was, they were wheeling and dealing skyscrapers and shopping malls domestically and internationally. Just loved it. It was fascinating. Life took me down a different path, but along that path, I was able to keep my hands tied into the real estate scene, building up my own rental portfolio. I was involved with a small company where we were able to pick up some interesting real estate pieces that we were able to operate as vacation rentals back in the day before there was such a thing as an Airbnb or VRBO, but we were doing this in really cool touristy locations. It was really fun to operate. With that company, we picked up a really cool piece of property we wanted to do something cool with, just based on where it was at. So we built a hotel and and a retail store and cafe with that one. And I got to help raise funds for that one. Both domestically and internationally. We moved to Austin in 2011, and that's where I started to do a little bit more of the active stuff, like the fix and flipping, the wholesaling. Did that for a handful of years and realized I really don't like it. So that's when it's a job, right? It's a hard job dealing with the contractors, distressed sellers. You can make good money on it, but yeah, it's a different pace. And so then it was okay. Well, how do I want to get back into the commercial space. So I started looking at the syndication, scene. How are people knocking down, purchasing 300-unit type apartment complexes? And in that process, I learned about the opportunity to partner with already successful operators on the capital side. And that's when I invested in a couple first to kind of get a sense of how it works, and then was really enamored with it, what I was able to accomplish there without having to do that, that daily job of managing contractors and picking out tile colors and all that stuff. And so that was where the emphasis, the beginning of Sugar House Investments, where we started that to help other people like us who love the idea of real estate be able to invest in a passive manner, take advantage of everything that it can offer without having to deal with the day-to-day management of it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks for the background. From the little bit that I know about you so far, I know that you're passionate about giving access to investors access to the benefits of commercial real estate. And our podcast is all about impact. We think about how can we make an impact on our stakeholders, on the communities around us. So talk to us a little bit about how you think about the impact that you're able to offer to investors by introducing them to commercial real estate.
Yeah, I mean, listen, real estate is such a powerful tool. I mean, these buying a 300-unit apartment complex, in principle, is not unlike fixing and flipping a house, right? You're taking a property that's not optimized, or maybe it's a bit run down, and you make it better. And so that's better for the neighborhood. That's better for the people who are going to be living there. And so you've got this, you're lifting up a community by going through that process. On the investor side, it's such a powerful tool to help individuals accomplish their goals, whatever those goals might be. For my family and me, I've got 2 young kids. We had thoughts of, how much time do we want to spend at home versus traveling? What kind of schools do we want to send our kids to? Where do we want to raise our kids at? What's the end all be all? And real estate is the vehicle that provides us that flexibility. And so as I'm talking to other, the potential investors in these deals, it's business owners, it's entrepreneurs, it's service professionals, successful salespeople. They're enjoying what they're doing. They have their own maybe the goals of getting out of that job, or they want to keep on doing it. It doesn't matter. Real estate can provide that capability, and they can achieve those goals without having to become the real estate expert. And that's that's the advantage of the passive real estate route, where you can put that money to work, achieve really significant returns, receive the tax benefits, and be able to live the lifestyle that you're looking to accomplish for yourself.
Yeah, love it. Can you tell us what's a sort of classic sugar house deal? So like when you're talking to a business owner or a doctor about putting some capital to work in real estate, is it going to be, is it a strip mall? Is it an apartment complex? What kinds of deals are you doing? And just how are you kind of framing it to them? Is it going to be a 3-year hold, a 5-year hold, or are they getting 6%? What's a basic deal look like for you guys?
Yeah, great question. So we spend a lot of time vetting operators. We're looking for operators that already have a number of, at least a handful of deals under their belt. They've got an experienced team. And so the process and the length of time that it takes us to vet an operator, we're looking for a long-term relationship with them. And so we don't partner with lots and lots of operators. Right now, we're partnered with 6. And primarily, these are multifamily operators. We have one operator that's in the self-storage space and another operator that's in industrial. In the past, we partnered with another group that was in mobile home parks, but we haven't done a deal with them for quite a while. So it's primarily multifamily. That would probably be, that is the classic, most common deal that we're talking about. And we've done that now in a couple different formats. These are generally, B-class type properties that we're looking to take to a B+. We're not looking at deep value add. We're not looking at, buying in the war zone, building new units, et cetera. It's taking a property that's already cash flowing today from day one, but there's opportunity to improve the operations, increase the rents, et cetera. That's what we're looking to accomplish. And that same goes for the self-storage units. Our strategy with our partner strategy on the investor side is a little bit different, but it's that type of a play. The returns, we've like everybody from the last decade, we all look like geniuses, right? We've been able to do really well for our partners. Generally, we've gone into these deals talking about a 3 to 5 or a 5 to 7 year hold period. Most of the deals have, depending on the class that you go into, an 8% preferred return or 10% preferred return. That's kind of the bottom floor that we're looking to achieve. We've been able to do significantly better than that on most of the deals. And instead of a 5-year hold up until into 2021, beginning of 2022, we were exiting in 18 months, 24 months, 30 months, and 2xing people's equity. What we're now, and the reality we're in now is resetting expectations, right? We're not going to double your money in 18 months, right? Those days were fun, but we've got to reset expectations now. We're still looking to accomplish really significant results, but we're likely going to be quite a bit closer to that projected 5, 6, 7-year hold to do so.
Makes sense. What about geography? Are the operators that you work with, do they have a specific geographic focus, or are they all throughout the country? I know you said you spent a decade in Austin, so I don't know if you were investing there, but yeah.
Yeah. So that's one of the great things about going to the commercial level is you're really buying a business. It's a spreadsheet where when you're fix and flipping, you want that close to your home. Actually, while I was living in Austin, I know you guys are in Pittsburgh. I actually bought a home in just outside of Pittsburgh in Ambridge. There was a fix and flip property. The worst purchase I've ever done in my life. I had no business.
Should have checked with us first.
I wish I would known you guys back then. I had no business buying that thing. I bought it for like $1,500.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, it was cheap. And the idea was that we thought it would take like $20,000 to fix it up. It was, in 2 months, it ended up being, $150,000, and 8 months later, and it's just such a pain. So when we're talking about commercial, though, it's a much different level of sophistication, and you don't have to be boots on the ground as an investor. And so geographically, we make sure that our partners that we work with are aligned. So we don't have partners that are focused in the same geographies. Some of our operators focus in one area, and we want the other operators to focus in a different geographical area. So all combined, we're buying primarily in the South. It's Phoenix, it's Texas, it's Florida, the Carolinas, Georgia, across those operators. On the industrial side, we're all over. We're all over the country. Middle of nowhere, Utah, middle of nowhere, Oklahoma, in these really areas where we've got an industrial operator and a really strong company, but they've got this manufacturing plant or this warehouse in the middle of nowhere. That's a different equation. But when it comes to the the multifamily units, we're looking for business owner friendly, property owner friendly, high growth areas. So it's Phoenix, it's Dallas, it's Houston, it's Atlanta, Jacksonville, all those classic areas that you keep on hearing about where people are flooding to.
Brad, I'm curious, in terms of your typical deal, what's like an average equity amount that you're raising in total for a syndication, and what's the average individual investor check size?
Yeah, great question. So it definitely depends on the deal and the operator. On some deals, we are the exclusive capital raiser, so we might be bringing all the equity to the table for them. We don't have exclusive agreements with our operator, so they can work with other, they can go raise their own funds. They can work with other capital raising groups if they'd like. But so it does depend on the deal. We're generally, it's multiple seven figures. 5 to 10 to 15 is generally million is generally the range in which we're bringing money to the table for that deal. And we're chasing a lot of $50,000, $100,000 checks. So yeah, it's a sometimes an exercise of herding cats. But yeah, that's $50,000 is for most of our deals is the investor minimum.
Yeah, that's what I figured. So you'll have 100 investors in any given syndication.
Correct. Exactly. Yeah. And so it is a lot of moving parts, and we have to make sure us and our operator partners have a robust, strong back end system so we can track it all, keep everything straight. But yes, it's that type of a structure.
Brad, I think you sit in a really interesting and unique seat in the real estate world because you spend time vetting operators. And, you're not out there necessarily operating yourself. You're evaluating the skills and abilities of potential operators to partner with. So thinking again about sort of our angle of impact, and I guess what's going through my head is we have a core value of integrity. And I think at Burgos, one of our core values, it means a lot to us. And I think integrity is an absolute necessity of a quality to have in someone who's going to be stewarding other people's capital. So how do you, track record is great. That's one way to evaluate people, but how do you build trust with and, evaluate sort of the character of the operators that you're looking to partner with?
Yeah, and that's huge. Because our potential investors or our investors, they don't have the time to do that. They're not going to have the skill set to evaluate the deal, evaluate the market, and they're just not going to have the time to spend the appropriate amount of time with that operator to, get that gut feeling, that gut check as well. So we actually do spend quite a bit of time with our operators. We're traveling to out with them to their existing deals as we're getting to know them. It's lunches and dinners, hanging out with the families. Spending enough time that we can do that gut check feel as well. We're doing background checks on everybody. So we're going through that process. So it is a deep vetting element. We haven't discovered any red flags along the way. Most people, I've seen deals go south. Luckily, we haven't been. It has been either we raised for. It's one of the things I like about investing in real estate. You can't run away with an apartment complex, right? There's always going to be a solid asset there that you can recover if things go south or an operator is a bad actor. But yeah, it's a lot of time. We go through those formal processes, of course, but then there's also just at the end of the day, spending a sufficient amount of time with the operator group to get to know them and make sure they pass the sniff tests as well. And that's where, that's our job. And so we're able to put in that time and investment and that effort into make, achieving that.
Cool. I'm curious, looking back on all the different operators that you've worked with, what kind of sticks out to you as one or two characteristics of the best ones?
So it's, there's as far as some tangibles go, we need deep pockets, right? So we there are deals sometimes that get a little bit tight. We want to make sure that the operators have the funds to cover any surprises. We don't want to be in the business of capital calls, and having those conversations. One thing we've discovered over the last 8, 9, 10 months, all of our operator partners are really good at managing the asset and executing the business plan for that property. We don't have any that have done a poor job of managing the property on the on-site management or managing the rehabs or the update processes within the complexes. What we've discovered, though, is a level of the financial management. There's a different skill set there, with some of the operators having the right people on the team that in their conversations with the banks, where they're getting the bulk of the money from, right? Because it's the bank putting up the biggest chunk of cash here. What are those loan terms? What does the fine print say? How do you manage this new reality that we're in with the increased interest rates? We have seen some of our operator partners manage that fluctuation better than others. We've seen one group not understand their loan docs as well as we thought they had. And so it added a new level of and a couple of new items to our due diligence checklist. What, as far as their financial acumen, because we need to make sure, that it's not just, you're not just managing the property, you're managing the bank, that bank relationship, that loan being such a critical piece as well. And so it's one of the reasons why it's such a team sport. And no, you can't go from a lone wolf house flipper to a successful commercial operator as a lone wolf. You've got to put teams together. Some people are going to be great at finding the deals, the broker relationships, managing the management. Somebody on that team has to have really extensive experience on the financial component as well.
Brad, you mentioned that deal in Ambridge that didn't work out too well for you. Tell me about your best deal, what's a deal, and it doesn't have to be one that you were a participant in, maybe you're just involved in it or saw it. And what's one that just didn't work out the way you had hoped, maybe that Ambridge or otherwise, and what did you learn? What did you learn from the differences between those?
Yeah. So as far as my own personal deals, that Ambridge house, that was a doozy. Didn't have the right people on the ground to help me evaluate how much this thing was actually really going to cost us to fix up and whatnot. So that was plenty of lessons learned on that one. When we were living in Austin and still flipping, my wife and I partnered with another couple, husband and wife. He was the general contractor, she was the designer, and that was fantastic. We'd find the deal, finance it, and they would do the construction. And we did a handful of flips with them and split it 50-50. those are actually some of our best personal flips because even the fact that we were giving half of those funds away, we were doing better than we would have on our own, and we were able to do more. So that was an idea of the team sport. As far as the commercial stuff goes, the very first deal I invested in as an LP, which was my, again, before I even knew how to find operators, I didn't know how many, at that point, I thought operators were rare. And the getting to invest with one of them was like, they were doing me a favor, right? That was the kind of the mindset. So I found one willing to take my money. I had a couple of other people recommend this group. And so we put 50,000 in there. It was a property 2 hours south of Houston, right along the coast, deep turnaround, deep value add property, new construction element to it, right in the path of hurricanes, and an operator with poor communication systems. Worst one yet. We were supposed to be in that deal for about a year. We still don't have our funds out of that one.
Yeah. So what are the main takeaways from
the main takeaways on that one? Yeah. Operators are not rare. You're not lucky just by being able to write them a check, right? That operator is lucky to have your funds. And so doing more due diligence and more searching for the right operators is important. And that deal has steered us away from those deep value adds. We realized we've been able to achieve really significant returns buying assets that are currently performing well. They don't need to be war zones. They don't need to be a D neighborhood and a D property. You don't have to build new units. Some people are, swinging for the fences like that and killing it, right? They're getting great returns from that, but that carries a different level of risk. And that one had because of the new construction element, it had a whole different zoning and permit discussion to it. And being 2 hours south of Houston, it had that hurricane risk as well. So Hurricane Harvey came through, pretty much knocked down everything that was halfway constructed. The property was, the buildings were insured, so insurance took care of some of the stuff. But in working with the city to get stuff permitted, the cleanup now, restarting, it was discovered it wasn't zoned correctly, and the permits were not the correct permits. And that operator, and it was operator error in that scenario, and it just delayed everything. And so. Yeah, it was supposed to be a quick 12 months in and out kind of a deal for us. But the takeaway there being, we don't need to swing for the fences. We don't need to be looking at those deep plays like that. Safer singles and aiming for the singles and doubles, which sometimes turn into triples and home runs, is a better way than intentionally going for the home run right out of the gate.
Yeah, you're preaching to the choir, Brad. That's we do. Andrew and I both have a good bit of personal experience with all different kinds of real estate investing, and we've settled into a strategy that is very similar to the one that you're describing. Because we think we can do really well with singles and doubles, and I think you know this from your line of work, but that's in many cases I think it serves the investor best. It protects them against the downside, and it also gives them opportunity to participate in the event of an upside. So
right. Yeah, and you were talking about accredited investors. They've got other income sources. They've done well in whatever they're doing. And I should say, some of the deals we work on do allow non-accredited investors, but primarily we're talking about folks who have a decent chunk of cash at their disposal. And so, putting that at risk and swinging for the fences doesn't, to your point, it doesn't serve them as well as just making sure that we're preserving that, giving them a solid return. That's more helpful to them than aiming for the fences every time and having to come back to them saying, "Darn it, this one failed. This one we struck out on this one." Just that level of consistency, safer plays. I think to your exactly how you said it serves them best.
Cool. I'm curious to understand. Really, just kind of personally curious your experience in hospitality investing. So you were doing some vacation rentals and tourist spots, and then you did some work with a hotel. So what markets were you doing that in, and maybe just share a little bit of that experience?
Yeah, definitely some unique ones. It was a unique play. We had talk about affinity marketing. We had a affinity audience, and so we were buying properties that would be attractive to this audience. And so those vacation rentals, upstate New York, southern Illinois, Utah. We had some a couple cabins in the Park City area and Provo Canyon area that we'd rent out for family reunions. Those the ones back east in upstate New York and Illinois, those ones they're appealing. They're touristy spots for a particular religious niche. And so we had a marketing engine to that niche, to that audience. And so we would use that marketing engine to advertise those properties. The hotel that we built with the hospitality and retail element to it, we got this piece of land that was in a really prime spot in a touristy location in southern Illinois, kitty corner to a really historical landmark. And so we wanted to do something special there. So we built a ground floor. It was a 3-story building. Ground floor was retail and cafe. Top story was hospitality suites. Ground floor was an art gallery and hospitality and hospitality suites as well. The intention was, and we had a signed lease for that retail cafe space with a retail chain, bookstore chain that was going to operate that building. At the last minute, they backed out. And so we ended up becoming retail operators and cafe operators, where we had intended to just be the landlords and operate the hospitality suites. And so that got us into the retail operations for several years as well, until we were able to sell that piece of the business off. Next door to that building, there was an existing 14-unit hotel building. We were able to buy that, update that building, and operate that hotel as part of that package. So it became this really cool little hub in the center of this town, where you could sleep, eat, visit the historical landmarks right there as part of your vacation. So it was definitely a fun experience. The construction scene in Illinois, everything being required union work, having to go drive down to Springfield to get permits for this or that. It was a heck of a learning process. Definitely, other lessons learned as far as business owner friendly, landlord friendly type environments. That's where I prefer to operate at this point. But yeah, it was an interesting run there for that was with the company I was with for about 9 years. When I still lived in Utah. But yeah, it was lots of fun times and memories from that one.
Very cool. You have a really diverse set of real estate experiences. So, hey, I've
got my battle scars, right, and my wounds. I've taken my chops, and so at this point, to be able to just focus on the capital raising side and let other people handle the battle scars.
Yeah, there you go.
And the trench fighting, it is nice.
Must be nice. Yeah, we're still in the trenches over here. But
thank you. Thanks for doing what you do.
Well, hey, I feel like I have gotten to know you and your business reasonably well. So I think I'll hand it over to Andrew here. Get to know you a little bit personally with our lightning round.
All right.
Yeah. Thanks, Dan. Yeah, Brad, I got to tell you, it was really interesting hearing just, as Dan said, the diversity of experiences that you have. So thanks for sharing some of those. And again, just want to get to know you personally a little bit. So what would you say is your biggest win, either personally or professionally, or just kind of, in general? What would you say is your biggest win?
Getting my wife to marry me. Yeah, getting her to say yes.
It's the right answer.
Wow. Yeah, you should send her this podcast.
Yeah,
hopefully
right.
she's listening.
Yeah, I talk about hitting a home run. I hit a home run with her. Really strong, supportive partner is so important. But yeah, no, and I've been fortunate that the company that I was with for 9 years, we were able to sell that off to a partner. That allowed us a little bit of flexibility. We spent a year traveling after that before we landed in Austin. So that opened up some avenues to us. We took a lot of chances, a lot of risks there that paid off, and I mean I gained a lot of battle scars from that one. But being able to sell that organization kind of set us up for a path with more flexibility and opportunities than we may have otherwise had I gone the path that I had originally intended while I was in school.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. And it sounds like you've landed yourself somewhere that really is a great fit for you. So What would you say is your favorite movie?
If you ask my wife that one, I think she'd tell you Spaceballs.
Oh yeah, like a good comedy.
Yeah, that one's always good for a laugh.
That's awesome.
But I would tell you Glory. I don't know if you've seen that one. It's a Civil War movie. You got Matthew Broderick and Denzel Washington in that one. That's the one where you can count on. You'll get tears out of me on that one. That's such a powerful movie. I love that one. I'll watch that one anytime I get a chance.
Yeah, awesome, great. I'll have to check that one out. How about favorite food?
I'm pretty eclectic. I like the ethnic food. Since we've been here, we moved to Boise about a year and a half ago. We've certainly been on the food tour here. Our go-to spot here is an Ethiopian place.
Nice,
where they serve it to you
on
your
hands.
Exactly. They serve it to you on that bread, and you use your hands in that bread to eat it. My wife, we're going there. We go there probably 2 or 3 times a month at this point. So yeah, we like trying new stuff. We don't generally lock into one type, but we're not a pizza and hamburger family. It's a little more adventurous.
Yeah, and I know you like to eat healthy food. You're passionate about health and nutrition. Anything particular in that world that you're kind of working on these days or interested in?
Yeah, what led us into that world, my wife has rheumatoid arthritis. And I'll give you the short version of that. It was the traditional medicine it kind of had run its course, and she was getting into a pretty bad spot. We discovered the world of functional medicine, which in summary is basically looking at the whole person, and that's where we learned about healthy eating and mindfulness, and we were able to put her arthritis in remission, and it's been there for the last 13, 14 years. And so that's, for us, it's always a question of, is eating that Trace Leche's cake worth it if she's going to be sore tomorrow? And so what we think about is always, we talk about clean eating or whole foods, whatnot. For me, the phrase in my head, I learned it from the last book I read in this domain. It's called Fiber Fueled. Diversity of plants. It's all about the ecosystem in your gut, the good bacteria in there that you're trying to feed. And each type of plant has a different type of fiber that feeds a different type of bacteria. Anyway, so I could geek off on that for a long while. But diversity of plants is what I'm always thinking about when I'm looking at a plate of food.
Yeah, you and I have to connect on that some other time. I think there's a book or something called Eat the Rainbow. And, I pretty routinely think about, eating a bunch of different colors. So you and I will geek out about that some other time. What's some A+ content that you're taking in these days, whether it be real estate related, might be a book or a podcast or social media, or it could be not real estate related as well?
Yeah. I really enjoy the Hunter Thompson podcast. He brings in he has a really strong economic acumen. He brings in some solid guests that I like to listen to. I'm also a fan of Malcolm Gladwell. I don't know if you're familiar with him.
Yeah,
Outliers is one of his books. His podcast, Revisionist History, is one that I enjoy. It's so eclectic, but it's super fun to learn about these different things that he dives deep on that you wouldn't even think about. And then he starts talking about it, you're like, wow, that's super interesting.
Yeah, definitely, makes you stretch a new part of your mind listening and reading some of his stuff.
Absolutely.
Cool. Well, just last question. If folks want to contact you, maybe they want to learn about, either becoming an LP in some of the syndicates you're doing, or maybe an operator that's interested in syndicating out some of their debt or some of their equity, how can folks get in contact with you?
Yeah, best place to contact me is on our website, sugarhouseinvestments.com. You can learn a little bit more about me and our team and the types of deals that we work on. As far as the day-to-day stuff, there's a lot of interesting real estate conversations happening on Twitter as we speak. So I got active on real estate Twitter about a year and a half ago, and that's really fun. I hang out there. I'm there pretty much most days. So I'm at Brad Shep on Twitter. Happy to connect there as well.
Well, thanks again, Brad, for being on the show. Thanks for our listeners for listening in. I know I learned a ton about how you think of impact in terms of really just connecting the right investor group to the right operators is particularly impactful for me, hearing how you think of vetting operators and how you're selective about your operators, and how it's important to find the right operator, particularly based off of some of the mistakes that you've made in your own life and some of the battle wounds that you have from the work that you've done in various aspects of the real estate space. So thanks again for being on our show, and listeners, we'll look forward to having you on next time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Real Returns Podcast. We hope that you learned something new about how you can invest to make a lasting impact on those around you. Please be sure to subscribe to our show wherever you listen to your podcasts, leave us a review, and share about us on social media. We hope you will join us for our next episode, where we will be continuing the conversation around impactful real estate investing.